Hey guys, this is Saltfire and welcome to my build video for the Magic Dragonknight for PvP for the High Isle chapter. Mag DK since last patch did take a little bit of a hit to sustain. It's definitely more noticeable in PvE, but for PvP I think we're fine. This build is going to have some very strong damage. It's going to be pretty tanky, and again, sustain for the most part I think is pretty fine. So getting right into it, we're going to start with the gear. Just going to pull up the Superstar. You can screenshot this and use this as you will. I will be going over everything in the video, but if you feel like your understanding of the game is good enough, you can just take a look at this and pretty much be set. Anyway, Bloodspawn, really good monster set for Mag DK, or just DK in general. We are getting some ulti back pretty quickly with this, which definitely helps because getting our ultimate back means we're going to be able to take advantage of our Battle Roar passive, which will help with sustain. It also gives us some resist, which definitely don't hurt. With the chest, we're running one piece of the heavy trainee because we are running a mythic, which I'll get into in a second. We are running 3 heavy and 3 light and 1 medium, as you can see by the colors here. So the blue is light, red is heavy, green is medium. We are running 4 impen and 3 reinforced being on the heavy. Next, Danger Trickery. This is our defensive set. We're running this on the body and on the back bar here. So whenever on our back bar, we're going to be proccing our 5-piece bonus here, which is going to give us either Expedition, Protection, Mending, Heroism, or Vitality. All of those are really good. Expedition's kind of whatever, but the other 4 are definitely very good. And whenever you get any of those, it's great. The Heroism is insane because that on top of the Bloodspawn means we're going to be getting our corrosive armor and leap back, reasonably quick with this setup here. And then when we get protection or mending or vitality, it instantly makes us a lot tankier, either just with flat damage mitigation or with healing. Next, we are using Burning Spellweave. There are a few alternatives to Burning Spellweave that you can run. This right now, I'm really liking it. It's really strong. We are getting almost, an extra 500 weapon spell damage whenever this procs with burning damage, which is very easy to do, by the way, on a DK, because, we do a lot of flame damage, of course. We also get some crit. The crit's pretty nice. And then we just get some max mag and weapon and spell damage. Lastly, our mythic, this one, the new mythic, Sea Serpent's Coil. It's very strong. For a second, when I first started using this, I thought that the uptime might not be that great. And if you're playing solo, honestly, the uptime, in fact, might not be that great. But if you're playing in a group with 1 or 2 or even more people, if you're catching heals from them, you're going to be getting back to full health pretty consistently, which is all you need to really reset the timer on this and get this to proc again. As far as traits on jewelry, we are running 2 swift, 1 infused. 2 swift really help mitigate the 40% snare from Sea Serpent's Coil. So it's honestly not like that much of a holdback whenever this does proc. Your damage is going to go through the roof. It slows you down a teeny tiny bit. And yeah, overall, I'm really liking this so far. So as far as some gear alternatives goes, if you're not going to run Burning Spellweave, I'd definitely run Plague Break. Like, if you don't want to farm this, run Plague. You'll be perfectly fine. Plague is so good for when you're fighting outnumbered. Let me pull it up here. Plague here, okay. We get some pen, which is kind of okay with DK because we do have corrosive armor, which ignores pen. We'll get into skills in a second though. Definitely get this if you don't want to run Burning Spellweave. It's really strong. I wouldn't really recommend more than like 1 person running this in your group though, because then it kind of becomes redundant. Usually I'm playing with a friend who runs Plague Break on his build, which is why I'm running Burning Spellweave, but this is really good. I definitely recommend getting Plague Break. If you proc this on somebody and people around them, when you kill somebody that has the plague infection on them, they're going to blow up and, do a lot of damage to everyone around them. It's great. Really strong for fighting outnumbered. You could run Kind Marcher's Cruelty. I don't have it in my inventory at the moment. That is another good alternative to Burning Spellweave. And then alternatives for the Mythic, if you don't like Sea Serpent's Coil, or you don't have High Isle, or you just want to run something different, I would recommend either running Death Dealer's Feet, which will give us a bunch of extra max stats, or Markin Ring of Majesty. Both are very, very fine alternatives. I was running Markin before I got Sea Serpent's Coil, and I really, really like this. So you're definitely not doing anything wrong by running Markin or Death Dealers. Next, I am going to go into our skills here. Also, before I go into skills, one thing I forgot to mention, we are stacking weapon damage instead of spell damage, simply because of this passive right here. Where is it? Yes, Mountain's Blessing. We are giving ourselves minor brutality to us and anyone in our group. Because we're giving ourselves a free little weapon damage buff here, it is easier to hit higher weapon damage than it is to hit higher spell damage on DK, which is why we're running weapon damage, because our skills now scale off of our highest offensive stats. So our highest offensive stats going to be weapon damage. I'll go into some alternatives for that in a little bit here, of course. Anyway, with skills, Flames of Oblivion, one of the strongest skills on DK. We're slotting this, getting ourselves some nice crit here. Also, this is a pretty decent AoE as well. If I'm in a group, if I'm in a fight where I'm heavily outnumbered, I do like to spam this quite a bit. It helps build up Seething Fury stacks for whip. It's going to be hitting multiple targets at once, so spamming this in fat fights is definitely not bad. I definitely like it. We're actually not running Talons here on this specific setup. You can if you want, I'll go into that in a second. But we are running Fossilize here, so you get a stun and then immobilize once they break out. Very, very good. I like to fossilize people once I get my dots on them and whatnot. It's really, really strong. I'm using Noxious Breath over Engulfing here, just because I think the major breach you get from this is a little bit more valuable than the 6% flame damage. It used to be 10% flame damage, but now it's just down to 6. So I don't know. I kind of like this better. It also helps with our mag sustain having a stam skill in the rotation. Next, Burning Embers. The heal from this got a little bit nerfed, but still really strong. We don't have that many heals on our bar. I do think what we have is enough, but I wouldn't go any less than this. So Burning Embers, pretty strong dot. Keep it up. It's really good. And then Molten Whip. This is, in my opinion, the best spammable in the game. Whenever you use 3 Ardent Flame skills in a row, you're going to build up Seething Fury stacks. You build up 3. Like you can see my little 3 right here. You're going to be doing a lot of damage with your next whip. I'm hitting some really, really fat whips on people when Sea Serpent's Coil is up and Burning Spellweave. I'm hitting some really, really gnarly whips. Next, for our front bar ultimate, we're using Ferocious Leap. This is a really, really strong burst ultimate. Typically, I will use this when I start getting somebody's health low just by keeping up my dots and spamming whip on them. Once they start getting low, I'll use this for some finishing pressure to either, again, finish them or get them close enough so I can kill them with a whip. Onto our back bar, we are using Race Against Time. This is going to give us some pretty consistent major expedition uptime, which will help with our movement speed debuff from the Sea Serpent's Coil. Also, Minor Force, definitely not bad to have. We do have about 30% crit on this build, so having that is pretty nice. And then also Snare Removal, very important to have on any build for PvP. Volatile Armor, this is going to be our main source of major resolve. A little bit of a dot, but we're mostly just using this for the resolve. Next, we're using Degeneration. You're using this primarily for the major sorcery and brutality, not so much for the dot. The dot's okay, but it's not great. Honestly, if you're in a group with people, you could run Igneous Weapons in its place. It'll last longer, and you'll be providing the buff to your group rather than just yourself. Next, we have Coagulating Blood. This is going to be our main burst heal. Very, very strong. If you use this when you're closer to full health, it's not going to hit as hard, the heal. If you're getting lower on health, you can definitely go ahead and hit this, and it'll hit really, really hard. It'll bring you close to full health, if not back to full health. And yeah, it's really, really strong. The lower your health, the stronger the heal is going to be. Rapid Regen, this is our main hot. If you're playing in a group, I might recommend using the other morph, just because it'll hit more people and it'll last longer. But if you're playing by yourself or with just one other person, this is going to be really, really strong, because the heal is going to tick faster and you'll get more healing out of this, I think. Lastly, ultimate corrosive armor. This is definitely the best ultimate in the game for PvP, simply because it turns you into a god for 12 seconds. You're going to be taking a lot less damage and at the same time be ignoring physical and spell resist with your direct damage. And we're doing a lot of direct damage on this build. So yeah, this is going to be really, really strong. So you can dot people up with these two guys here, keep your Flames of Oblivion up, stun them, come back, hit corrosive armor, and then just start whipping them to death, and they're going to fall over every time. I've taken down some really, really tanky targets, like 50k health tanks and whatnot, that just sit there and hold block the whole time. Eventually you'll wear them out and kill them with corrosive armor. It's really, really good. Yeah, so that's it for skills. Let's go over some passes. We have all of our Undaunted passes, obviously. Psijic, Mage's Guild. We are a stage 3 vampire. You can run Elusive Mist, by the way, over Race Against Time if you want. I just prefer the Race Against Time for just being quicker, but Mist form is definitely not bad. You're not doing anything wrong by running Elusive Mist there. We have all of our armor passives. We're using Resto Staff here. What do you call it? And then we're also using Dual Wield. So yeah, just Dual Wield Resto. It's really all you need. Of course, all of our racial passives. Not racial, I'm sorry, class passes as well. And then race, you are a Breton. Breton is, I think, the reason why we're able to sustain pretty well. You could go Dark Elf if you wanted to, but I'd have to suggest running an extra Magicka glyph at least. But yeah, Breton, very, very strong choice for Mag DK this patch. And yeah, that's it for our passives. Next for our Mundus, we are running the Atro Mundus for some extra mag recovery. This is very, very good, very, very stat dense. I really like it. Speaking of stat dense, I really do like this here, the Orzorga's Bear Haunch. This is expensive food, okay? This is expensive food, but it is worth it. You are getting max health and a bunch of stats. So this is very, very stat dense. I highly recommend it. There is an alternative. I'll forget the name of it. I forget the name, but I will put up a screenshot on the video right now that shows you the name of it and the food. It is less expensive. Not quite as good, but definitely a fine alternative. For our potions, I am running just basic tri-health or just tri-stat pots. They're the same as the crown ones. You can run those if you want. It just gives you health, mag, and stam, and the major buff for the recovery for each of them. Lastly, champion points. We are running Duelist Rebuff, Ironclad, Master at Arms, and Exploiter. The reason we're running Exploiter is because when we stun somebody and they break free, it immobilizes them. When we hit them with our whip, when you hit somebody that's stunned or immobilized with our whip, it's going to set them off balance. So you stun somebody, start whipping them, you're going to proc Exploiter, and you'll be doing 10% more damage to them. It's really, really good. That is more specific for single target. I was, the other day, and a couple days, playing around with Occult Overload. This got buffed this patch. It's very strong. I was fighting in just a couple of my friends against massive groups of people, like mini Zergs and whatnot. So I put this on instead of Exploiter, and I got quite a few kills with this. It was definitely kind of fun to play around with. So like, when you do kill somebody, they're going to blow up and do more damage to people around them. So I killed people, and they blow up, and people die next to them. I got a few nice bombs of this. It's definitely fun to play around with, but overall, I think Exploiter is a little bit more consistent. So yeah. For the red CP, we're running Boundless Vitality, just to get a little bit extra health, just because it was kind of hard to squeeze health into this build and get my max mag where I liked it. Not to mention, we also have really high resist without even running the fortified CP. Pain's Refuge, very, very good. You are going to have a lot of status effects and debuffs on you in open world PvP. So yeah, this is going to be up to 20% damage mitigation, very, very strong. And of course, Sustained by Suffering, this is going to help with our recovery as well, because again, we're going to have a lot of debuffs on us in PvP from other players. And lastly, we do have Celerity. This is very, very strong. Movement speed, it's great for kiting. We do have the movement speed debuff on us. This helps with that as well. Celerity is very, very strong. I use this on almost all my builds. So yeah, green CP doesn't matter that much. Just roleplay stuff. Um, yeah, if you did want to run Talons, because Talons is too good of a skill to ignore, to be honest. So we're gonna go over how we would run that. If I was gonna run Talons, I would probably honestly just drop degen for Talons, or I'd probably put like Noxious there, and then I'd put Talons right here, and then we're gonna have to find a way to get Major Sorcery and Brutality. How I would recommend doing that is to either use some kind of potion that gives you Major Sorcery or Brutality, or you could just switch up the build a little bit. You could, damn, where's my inventory? Right here, okay. You could take off the weapon damage, go with spell damage, and just run spell power pots instead. I was doing that for a while. It's still very, very strong, and the Talons do go hard. So if you do want to run spell damage and instead use spell damage pots, so you can run Talons, that works as well. Yeah, overall, I'm really, really happy with this build so far. I think guys will like it as well. If you do like what you see, I do stream on Twitch almost every day, usually in the evening specific time. So yeah, do check me out. If you like the video, leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.